little more about. So, look, I have to tell you, it's great to be back down here. And I say this on behalf of all Americans, the incredible leadership that comes out of this state. And I just want to say this as a point of personal privilege. Thank you on behalf of the rest of the country for giving us the treasure that's Governor Roy Cooper. When you meet governors, it's reflective of the people. And when you meet Roy Cooper, you can't find a kinder, more visionary, more thoughtful, just more compassionate person. It reflects on the great state of North Carolina. That's why it's going to be really hard to find somebody, but I'll be danged if North Carolina didn't. We need to elect Josh Stein as your next governor. To all the local leaders and the folks I've known down here, but I just want to say to all of you, on behalf of the Vice President and myself personally, as an American, to see you folks out here and to see what you've done. Look, you could be anywhere. You could certainly be out of the rain if you wanted to. We know you're smart enough to get out of it, but you've chosen not to. But you came here, you've got busy lives, you've got kids coming out of school, you got things to do. It's a Tuesday, but you came here for the very simple, beautiful reason you love this country. Thank you. Now, it's also pretty clear North Carolina is certainly not going to let rain stop us from making Kamala Harris the next president of the United States. The vice president told me, she said, gee, I got to tell you, Tim, a couple people showed up in Charlotte and Greensboro last week. Just to let all of you know, the rest of the country was looking at those crowds and looking at the enthusiasm in awe of what you were delivering. So this has been happening all across the country. And Donald Trump, of course, responded like any normal, sane adult would and said, no one's there, it's AI. That's what he would say about all of you. But I always remind them, you know what won't be AI? Your ballots won't be AI. And I got to say, too, to the vice president and the crowds, that it is contagious. You can feel it, that we now believe what we all knew, that the precious democracy we have and that politics and campaigns can be focused on the hard work ahead of us, but they can be done with what Kamala Harris does every single day. Done with joy, done with happiness. Remember when they thought it was a dig because she laughs? Well, it's really great to have a president who laughs with people, not at people. And that's what we're going to get. So that's because Kamala Harris has spent her whole life fighting on the side of the American people. You know her story. Took on the predators, took on the fraudsters, took on the transnational gangs, took on the big corporate interests, and never hesitated to work with anybody on either side of the aisle if it was right for the American people. I bet she never thought the predators and the fraudsters and the greedy corporate interests would be all wrapped up into one person on a debate stage. So, but she saw it. But I got to tell you, I'm proud to be on this ticket. And the vice president says this a lot. Only in America can you find someone from a middle-class family in Oakland, California, and someone from rural Nebraska who have the ability to become the next president and vice president of the United States. So my guess is some of you know something about small towns. I grew up in a town of 400 people, 24 kids in my high school class, 12 were cousins. I never get away with someone not asking about prom dating on that one either. But and not one of those kids became a venture capitalist. Imagine that. I don't know. But you know what you do learn growing up, and some of you grew up in small towns and big towns. It's about taking care of your neighbors. It's about looking out for somebody next to you. It's about understanding the common good. We have a saying in Minnesota, when we all do better, we all do better. And I feel blessed. I grew up in a community and with parents who understood this. My dad was a Korean War veteran, so 2 days after my 17th birthday, he took me down, raised my hands, and I signed up for the Army National Guard. I'm proud of it. I wound up doing 24 years in this nation's uniform. And nothing I'll do compare to the honor of doing that work. But I'll also tell you, there's a lot of ways to serve this country, and I had the privilege of serving it as a public school teacher for a couple decades. Coached some football, which was good. And my pro tip of the day is don't ever close the yearbook. We won the state championship, and I talk about it to this day. So there you go. I never thought about running for office, but I learned something from those kids. They were seeing in me what I was trying to teach them. Common good, lift folks up, think about someone else. And so my neighbors talked me into running for Congress in a district that they did not tell me had one Democrat since 1892. Well, they gave me the privilege of serving them for 12 years in Congress. And I was consistently ranked as one of the most bipartisan members of that body because I worked on Veterans Affairs. I worked in the Ag Committee. I worked on transportation, things about making rural economies in our states work. And I learned something really important, that you can compromise without compromising your values. And I know that the vice president learned those things. So it's good that come November, with your help, after she's elected president and I am elected the vice president, we'll take those values to the White House. Now, look, we don't expect everybody to see the world the same way. And it's pretty clear our opponents see the world very, very differently. We all saw what happened when Donald Trump was in power. The very first thing, don't let him forget this, because, they try and rewrite history every day. They try and, alternate facts, new this, whatever. But be very clear. First thing he did, signed an executive order and talked about this, was to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which protected those of us with pre-existing conditions, let our children stay on our health care until they were 26. And something, thank God, for you and Roy Cooper, expanding Medicare and Medicaid coverage across the state. But I will say this. On the second one, this is the one thing he kept his word on, and he actually followed through with it. He said to his rich buddies, well, you're rich as hell, and I'm going to give you a tax cut. He did. He did give a tax cut to the wealthiest amongst us. All the while creating the largest debt of any president in history. And then, as our Republican friends are so apt to do, they tell you government doesn't work, then they get elected and prove it. We know that shell game. And the third thing he did, and he brags about this often, he forgets about this too. He rammed through 3 judges who made sure that women are no longer responsible for their own health care choices. And I don't know, he found enough energy to do this. He did all that before he tried to violently overthrow our election and deny a free and fair election. We need to be very clear about how we talk about that. Because he lost the election, and there's no fair and balance. He lost the election fair and square. And look, my high school students know this, and my players knew this. You play hard, the other team plays hard, and after the game, if you lose, you'll walk across and shake hands and congratulate the other team. That's the way it works. In politics, you take it another step forward. You walk across and congratulate the winner, and then you pledge to do all you can to help them succeed, because that's good for America. Now, I did teach for a while. I think I'm a pretty good teacher, and I would always give my students extra chances to learn. Sometimes you don't learn the lesson the first time. So Donald Trump did not learn the lesson the first time, but the good news is he's going to learn the lesson in November when he gets to do it. But every once in a while, these guys do surprise me. This last weekend, Donald Trump's running mate, Senator Vance, did a really remarkable thing. He got called out by a fair and free press that are a part of our democracy and fundamental to the freedoms of this country. He got called out by that press about telling vicious, hurtful lies about immigrants. But he did something. He did something. He told the truth. They asked him if maybe it was an accident or he didn't mean it. No, he said, I admit it. I'm willing to create stories to spread fear to drum up support for us. Now, the only thing amongst this group is no kidding. We've been seeing that for years. Yes, but at least they admitted it. At least they admitted it. So you got to ask, what other things are they making up stories about? I think you know. I think you know. The reason you do that is because if you told what you really stood for, no one would vote for you. And that includes the folks who think that, because you know you have your neighbors who are out there. Hell, we have them in our families, don't we know? So, but that's what happens. And I don't really like Donald Trump, but I like what he stands for. Oh, really? Suppressing women's reproductive rights? Is that the one you want? Or is it cutting taxes for billionaires while you get screwed in the middle class? Is that the one you like? Or is it ignoring real problems, like our children being shot dead in schools? Is it those things or whatever? So I think for all of us, the truth here, you know who Donald Trump is. You know the pain that he caused. He killed thousands of manufacturing jobs across this state. It doesn't matter how many times he tries to rewrite history, that's a fact and you know it. And then he told us that we needed to not have overtime protections for 280,000 North Carolinians. That's $45 million that didn't go into your pockets, but went into the tax cuts for his wealthy buddies. But here's the thing. I think it's important to know where we came from for where it's at. But I know that people are here, and I know that these young people are excited. Look, these guys run on fear. And I know, I supervised the high school lunchroom for about 20 years. It made me an eternal optimist, have to be, but it also taught me fear is an incredible short-term motivator. It doesn't change behaviors. These guys focus on fear of the unknown. Blame the brown man, blame somebody else. That's what they do. It's important to know who they are, but what really inspires people is policies and a vision like Kamala Harris is bringing that's about the future. It's about the future. It's about what we can do together. It's about telling you can do. And she's got the record to prove it. Vice President Harris served in an administration that created 500,000 jobs here in North Carolina in partnership with rural people. Manufacturing jobs coming back home. And something I got to tell you, I served in Congress and then as governor. Every damn week, Donald Trump talked about Infrastructure Week. Oh, we're going to do Infrastructure Week. And then, of course, the dysfunction of the Congress did nothing. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris did something. They passed the largest infrastructure act in American history. And that's real jobs and real work. $10 billion to North Carolina to remove lead pipes from all your homes and your businesses. The Alligator River Bridge, replace it. And then bringing what your governor was a leader in and your legislature pushing on, making sure that high-speed broadband is in every corner of the state. Every corner of the state. But, and it's about a vision, and it's about where that is. But I got to tell you, it's about them trying to tell Americans to not trust their own eyes, too. So we're not going to miss. We got the opportunity last week Look, it's crazy to me. There are 330 million people in this country, and there are two people, one of whom is going to be president of the United States. And they were both on that stage last week. And one of them commanded the stage with presence, poise, vision. And the other one was a nearly 80-year-old man shouting at clouds, is what it amounted to. So America saw clearly there's only one person that is going to be, and with your help, will be the next president of the United States. Now, people told me, my God, she did well. She's tough, she's tested, she's ready. And then they would sometimes couldn't help themselves, and they would say, oh, it really surprised me. And I would say, oh. It surprised you that this incredibly talented woman who was a county attorney, an attorney general of the largest state in the country, a United States senator, vice president of the United States, why would you be surprised that she would be able to do that? But I think all of us know Kamala Harris isn't talking about the historic nature of this. She just puts her nose down and does the work. She stays, as we say in the Army, she stays in her lane every single day. And she does. But for us to have her back and to recognize what it means here, look, there are so many people here. There are so many of you who have worked at this for decades to do this that have continued to crack that glass ceiling. Well, cracks in the glass ceiling aren't enough. We need to make sure that that glass ceiling is shattered and Kamala Harris steps through. Donald Trump that night had the entire 90 minutes to tell us what he would do to make life a little better for average Americans like us. He didn't do a damn thing. Now, I will say this. Again, the teacher in me always wants to find progress. And you know the kid. You got here today, Gary. I'm so happy. You know that one. Donald got on that stage, and after 9 long years dealing with a health care plan, he presented us a concept of a plan. Seriously, none of my students ever gave that weak of an answer when you got there. So the issues that are important to you, again, we understand, and politics can be fun, but it is very clear. Donald Trump has no plan for you. He has no plan to improve your life. Kamala Harris, a very different story. Growing up in that middle-class family, she's laid out a plan for an opportunity economy. And I think it's important to tell our neighbors this. Get the phones out, you're hitting record, send them a video. Oh, it's beautiful. Some of you say, I know why this guy was a good teacher. He identifies with the attention deficit people in this. So, no, it's about being in the moment. You are at a political rally with your neighbors. So tell your friends if they're wondering why they think they should vote for her now that they said, my God, she did better than I thought she was going to do. My goodness, she's super accomplished. Let's go down a list a little bit of what she's going to do. Let's run them off here. If you're hoping to buy a home someday, which all of us want to, she's going to help make it more affordable. If you're getting squeezed on grocery prices, prescription drugs, she's going to make sure we take on the price gougers and big pharma. And if you have an idea, you want to start your own small business, she's going to make sure that the tax credit on that, we cut through the red tape, give you help on the front end to let you achieve the dream that you want to. And this is one that's personal to me because we know who built the middle class. If you're a union member or want to be a union member, she'll sign the PRO Act and make it easier to form a union and collectively bargain. And the biggest thing is you saw it. You saw it in Chicago. You saw us talk about it. Freedom. It's not just a song that she comes out on the stage, although it's really cool when she does come out on stage to freedom. But we talk about freedom, and that freedom is fundamental. The freedom to live your life the way you choose, not with government interference. And I say this as someone who knows this, and this is a part of the state. You know this too. Republicans used to talk the same way about freedoms. They used to really believe it. Not these guys. Now when they talk about it, government should be free. Invade your doctor's office. Make decisions for you. Invade your bedroom. Tell you who you should love. Invade your school library. And now, Trump is trying to create this new government entity that will monitor all pregnancies to enforce their abortion bans. And then, look, these are stories that we hear, and I got to tell you before I go on this, I balk at even mentioning his name, but I was the former chair of the Democratic Governors Association, and winning the governorship in North Carolina is our #1 priority. Because you have Josh Stein, because he's following Roy Cooper. But let's just be honest. If you search those 330 million people, you would not find a worse candidate than Mark Robinson. He says it's not your body anymore once you're pregnant. So for your neighbors, friends, daughters, everyone else, you think about this. You really want to have a federal agency run by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance giving a Mark Robinson the authority to monitor your pregnancy? That stuff is so dystopian that Orwell wouldn't even write about it. Trust me. But here's the thing. People live their lives differently, and we respect that. You worship the way you want to, love who you want to, take the job you want to. Do that. I might not choose the same thing you do, but the thing we say in Minnesota is, you know what makes things work really well? Mind your own damn business. And this is why I know that's not just Minnesota, that's everywhere. We started the morning with rallies down in Macon, Georgia, where they're fired up and ready to go. We stopped by the famous H&H Cafe down there, and some of you know it. Midnight Rider, that's my go-to for you on that. Buy that one. But on the wall, they had a sign that they had written up there, and it says, mind your own damn biscuits on here. They said that's a nice way of saying what you said, Governor, is what we're going to say. So look, this stuff is personal for all of us. And that's why we can't this is not theoretical. You're not rooting for your team. You're not like, oh, I'm on the Red Hat team, and damn it, I'm going to stick with them no matter how bad they are. Ditch them if they start doing bad. Go on. Because it's personal. And I know none of us want to have to talk about this. There was a story that came out yesterday. Amber Thurman, a woman from Georgia, who had to come up here and try and get reproductive care because her pregnancy was going bad. She ended up, because of that and going back to Georgia, falling into sepsis and dying. A 28-year-old mother, because of Donald Trump's horrific policies. These things are personal. For my family and we weren't able to have children. My wife and I talked about this. And those of you out here have gone through this, or if you know somebody, the hell of infertility. It breaks your soul. You're waiting for the phone calls. They don't come in. It strains your relationship, and all you want is to have that child. These guys talk all the time about families. Today they had a damn vote to correct IVF, and they killed it. Because this is the most precious thing to us. So you better bet, when our daughter was finally born, we named her Hope for that reason. And I said this, she and her brother are a whole world to us. That's what this election's about. We don't want to have to go talk about this private stuff. Stay out of our business. But we have to, because what I know is, if these guys win and get their way, they made it clear today. They're not just going after abortion. They're going after fertility treatments. They're going after contraception. They're going to create this federal agency to track you. The idea that some family would go through that horror with not having access to have beautiful children like we have, don't ever come to me and tell me you're pro-family values, because that's a damn lie. That's a lie. Oh, and by the way, you know what we do after our children are born? We care for them. We provide them meals. We provide them health care. So look, when Vice President Harris talks about freedom, we mean people, not politicians, making those healthcare choices. Be very clear. We mean education as a ticket to the middle class, not crippling student loan debt. And we mean that our seniors should retire with dignity by strengthening Social Security and Medicare. I always say this, these folks who don't want government, who don't want anything or whatever, these are always the people, you know, oh, I don't want my property taxes to go up to pay for the local swimming pool that all of our kids swim in. That's because they got one in their backyard. They don't care. And they don't care if Social Security goes insolvent or they raise the age, because they're not depending on it like my 89-year-old mom to pay the heating bill and buy groceries. So look, this issue of freedom to live the life you want to, freedom to make your own choices, freedom to make sure that government stays the hell out of your bedroom and your choices on that. All of those things from healthcare on down the line, to make those own choices for yourself. That's what this is about. And I will not stand back and watch this. Coming from Georgia, which we saw last week, and we see it every week, hundreds of times in this country. When we talk about freedom, we mean freedom to send our little ones to school without being shot dead in their classroom. I come from that culture. I'm a veteran, I'm a hunter, I'm a gun owner. Oh, by the way, we learned at the debate, so is the vice president, by the way. I say that because we support the Second Amendment, but you don't get to hide behind that when our first responsibility is to the safety of our children. And having been someone who sat in my office with dozens of parents of the Sandy Hook children, as they looked at the picture of my son on my desk and said, our children would have been your son's age. By the way, the Sandy Hook children would have been seniors this year in high school. How morally bankrupt do you have to be when Donald Trump says things that when children die in mass shootings, we just need to get over it? And then just last week, J.D. Vance told us it was just a fact of life. These are the people who are spending all their time trying to ban books from our schools, but they can't spend a minute banning assault weapons from our schools. And let's be clear, they don't trust the American people. They don't trust you to make your own healthcare decisions. They certainly don't trust when they want everybody to vote because they want to suppress the vote because they know how you vote. But they don't trust us to solve the toughest problems. Why is it every other nation in the world can figure this out and not get their children shot and we can't? Vice President Harris is right and she'll do something about it. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. You heard it here, and each of you know it. We can't afford 4 more years of this guy. We've seen Project 2025. I'll thank them for this. At least they wrote out what they're going to do this time for us. And they said, oh, we don't know anything about it. Oh, really? JD, you wrote the foreword to the architect of it, you know. Might have done that. But look, I know it's true. If somebody takes the time to create a playbook, the football coach in me knows they're going to run the plays. They're going to run the plays. So they told us what they're going to do. And this is the one that's really something. Mr. Vance also said this, and this is a direct quote. I'll get this right. We need to be really ruthless when it comes to the exercise of power. We need to be really ruthless with the exercise of power. Look, there's no excuse for us not to say they didn't tell us. They told us. But Kamala Harris isn't running to be in power. She's running to govern in the name of the American people. So when they're talking about being ruthless, be very clear, and I trust them on this. This is one that I do. I don't trust him on much, but I trust him on this. Donald Trump has proposed cutting taxes for billionaires because he told them, you're rich as hell, I'm gonna give you a tax cut. He will do it, adding $5 trillion more to our debt. At the same time, he's proposing, now get this, he's proposing these massive tariffs that only Donald Trump knows about, apparently. Every economist in the world says that will end up being the equivalent of a national sales tax, costing every single family $4,000 a year. Now, they also badmouth, and for those of you in here, those who are public employees, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Those are our police, our firefighters, our teachers, you know the ones. They care for our seniors, they care for our children, they're epidemiologists, they care for our natural resources. Donald Trump's plan is he doesn't like those folks because they're not political. They're above it. He wants to gut all of those folks and put in only his people. Bad-mouthing the folks, I was out in Nevada last week where Forest Service folks are fighting forest fires. Those are folks that put their lives on the line for us, something bigger than them. And the reason that this is such an alien concept for Donald Trump is he doesn't understand service to anyone but himself, to no one but himself. So throwing the things out there, they will ban abortion across this country. Now, he said, no, I'll do IVF. Oh, I'll make it, I'll make it free. He was like this, baby for you, baby, and this guy's going to come to your house pretty soon and promise to give you birthday parties is when he's in right now. We're in that stage of the campaign because he's sure the hell can't tell you he's going to cut taxes for billionaires. He's sure the hell can't tell you that he's going to prevent IVF treatments. He can't do any of that. But he is so enamored. He had an opportunity on that debate stage when they asked him to someone he admired, someone globally. Who do you admire that's out there, whatever? There's a lot of people he could have chosen. I think a group he could have chosen were brave young Ukrainians who are on the front lines resisting. But everyone here knows why he wasn't going to do that. Because he couldn't answer the question if he wanted Ukraine to win that war. You got your answer when he couldn't say that. Because this guy admires Putin. He admires Kim Jong-un. He admires Xi Jinping. And you know when he was asked who he could pick out? Viktor damn Orban. Viktor Orban. That's the guy you get. And look, here's the thing. He thinks those guys like him. Can you imagine if those four get together when they talk about what a weak and what a sucker Trump is to be played? You know they do it. Oh my God, he's so easy. Just tell him his hair looks nice and he'll give you whatever you want. Just tell him he's handsome and he'll pull out of NATO. That's how it works. What was really great though is you saw how quickly Kamala Harris baited him. Because he would be furious to know this crowd in Asheville is far bigger than he ever got. So look, we know what's at stake. They outsmart him. We know what we get. But bringing it back to the focus of who we are and what Kamala Harris talks about being a president for all Americans, I talk about this often. Two things she says that I just love to hear her say it. It's so simple, but it's beautiful. She says the mark of leadership isn't who you can tear down, it's who you can lift up. Simple. Simple. And then we were getting off a bus at a rally, and it was just her and her husband, Doug, and my wife, Gwen, and I. And this was a few weeks ago, and I'm on the bus, and I'm still like, oh, man, this is so cool to be on the bus with the vice president. And we're going to get out at a rally, and there's a whole bunch of our supporters, and there's folks that aren't our supporters. And I said, it's always nice because you can tell them because they have the same hat on. And you just see them, they're there. But she turned around and looked at me, and she said, Tim, we work just as hard for the people and their families on this side of the street as we do on this side of the street. And that's what all of us believe. Because that's who America is. And I saw it this summer. I had the privilege of a lifetime to be in France on the 80th commemoration of the D-Day landing. And I was riding on a bus with several of our Medal of Honor awardees who had earned the Medal of Honor for bravery. And we were going down these dusty little trails to get to the beaches of Normandy. And the houses were decorated with little French flags, with little British flags, with little Canadian flags, with little American flags. To the cemeteries where the sons and daughters of the free nations of the world came together on those beaches to protect democracy against the spread of Nazism and totalitarianism. And while our young warriors died on that foreign beach, they died for the common humanity, the common decency, the common human rights that we all aspire to. Donald Trump, when Vladimir Putin invades a democratic country, he says, I don't care, do whatever the hell you want. Donald Trump tells Putin that. So when you hear Vice President Harris say, our allies are terrified of him coming back into power again. But the good news is, that's not going to happen. So we are not going back. I said, I love all the things my wife talks about turning a page. She's an English teacher and all of that. I just like this one. This damn TV show of his has been on too long. Let's just cancel it in November. Let's just cancel it. So, but here's what we get with Kamala Harris. And here's what we get with all of you out here. And people like Stephen and others who are inspired. We've got a new generation of American leadership that's inspiring the rest of the world. So you saw it. Kamala Harris can take care of herself. Our job is to do the blocking and tackling and cover her back. That's what our job is. So this is where I never get too far from being Coach Walz on these things. This is where I'm going to be. Think about it. If everybody here tonight gets just one more person to do a phone bank or a door knock, just one, talk to somebody, one more conversation, have that conversation. I'm trying with all of my relatives, I'm trying with everybody else to make the case that we're in this together. We can chart a new way forward. Hell, I get it. You're out here, you're standing in the rain, you're giving your money, you're knocking on doors, you're doing all that. But my God, what a privilege to fight for the democracy. What a privilege. "49 days to go. We're finally going to have early voting starting here in North Carolina on the 17th. And we get the opportunity to make a difference, not just for 4 years, but for 40 years. Not just here, but across the world. That's what we get to do. So we're in the fight. All gas, no brakes. Sleep when you're dead. And as the next president of the United States says, when we fight, when we fight, thank you.